Welcome to the Full Moon Film Buff, episode 81. We're going to talk about The Castle of the Monsters, El Castillo de los Monstros, from 1958. I rented this from Scarecrow Video. I had not seen this before. As always, we begin with a prominent crew and cast. The film was directed by Julian Soler, written by Fernando Galeana, the story, Carlos Orellana, the adaptation, and Julian Soler, technical screenplay. The effects makeup was done by Rosa Guerrero. Julian Soler is part of the Soler dynasty. Couldn't find much more information than that. The cast includes Antonio Espino as Clavalizo, billed as Antonio Espino Clavalizo, Evangelina Elizondo as Beatrice, Carlos Orellana as Don Melchor, aka Dr. Sputnik, Guillermo Oria as El Cojo, the Hunchback, German Robles as El Vampiro, the Vampire, Vicente Lara as El Hombre Lobo, the Wolfman, uncredited in the film, Jose Wilhelmi as El Gargle, billed as Jose Munoz Wilhelmi, Jose Luis Moreno as El Pelotas Popsicle, billed as Jose Moreno Camacho. Antonio Espino was a hugely popular Mexican comic who went by Clavalazo or something similar for most of his career and was known for his oversized suits. Evangelina Elizondo was a real surprise and treat to me. She got her start as the voice of Cinderella in the original Spanish language release of the Walt Disney feature film. Her first film was opposite German Valdez, who we've seen before. She went on to star in movies, television, and theater in Mexico and Cuba, mostly comedies and musicals. She recorded numerous albums. She was an accomplished artist. She earned a theology degree. She wrote 2 books. In 2014, she received a Premios Harlequin Prize, for her contribution to Mexican culture. Herman Robles was known as the Spanish Christopher Lee. He starred in a lot of Mexican horror films, mostly as vampires. We saw Vicente Lara in Santo and Blue Demon Against the Monsters. A little background here before I get to my recommendation. I didn't expect to like this movie. I expected another grating ripoff of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. That's not what this is. It is genuine and sweet in a way that caught me completely off guard. The slapstick is funny. Espino is charming and humorous. It's a lovely, enjoyable film that I had to work to watch. I had to get it on DVD and then attach a third-party subtitle file. Unfortunately, the subtitle file was offset by about a minute, so I had to remember what happened on screen and correlate it to the dialogue. I expect you two might struggle to see it unless you speak Spanish, in which case you're blessed, and it might not be your thing. But if you can find it with subtitles, I loved it. It was great. I think you'll love it. So let's talk about the synopsis. 7 bodies are missing from the town cemetery. I presume they are at the creepy castle where Frankenstein's monster and the disfigured limping hunchback live. The townsfolk ostracize the hunchback. Beatrice shows up and hires Clavalazo to bury her dead aunt. She is now homeless, so Clavalazo gives her his decrepit apartment while he goes to a hotel. He's clearly smitten with her. She's touched. The innkeeper's son is severely intellectually challenged. A newlywed couple is honeymooning at the hotel and mistakes Clavalazo for the disabled young man. There is some very weird slapstick, but it is pretty funny. Clavalazo flees. Clavalazo goes to stay with nice old blind man, Mr. Melchor, and we cut back to the castle. In addition to the previously spotted inhabitants, there is a creature in the dungeon cell and a mad scientist named Dr. Sputnik, performing experiments on a dead body. Sputnik's face is always obscured or hidden. Sputnik tells the hunchback that he wants a pretty female for his experiments. The next day, Beatrice already has a job as a seamstress. She's also cleaned up Clavalazo's apartment. That night, he lip syncs a serenade to her and gives her flowers. He's got W-Riz for days. I was told that that's what the kids say. He even proposes and she accepts. Of course, the mad scientist shows up and uses telepathic hypnosis to abduct Beatrice. Clavalazo reports her missing, so obviously La Policia tried to take him into custody, but the whole neighborhood vouches for him. Everybody loves Clavalazo, and I see why. When Clavalazo sees the hunchback, he jumps to the correct conclusion that he had something to do with her disappearance. So Clavalazo follows him to the castle with his friends Popsicle and Gargle. They smuggle Clavalazo in as a dead body in a casket. He slips out to find Beatrice. Much Abbott and Costello type slapstick occurs as Clavalazo encounters a werewolf, a mummy, a vampire, and alligators in that order before he finds Beatrice. He breaks the spell that she's under and the pair run from a Gilman. Dr. Sputnik wants to make her in his Galatea and reasserts his psychic control. It turns out that Dr. Sputnik is actually Mr. Melkor, who has been pretending to be blind this whole time. Sputnik tries to hypnotize Clavelasso, but he's too shifty, smart, in love. I don't know, it's unclear. He can't be controlled is the result. The entire monster posse descends on Clavelasso and Beatrice. Sputnik gets Beatrice on the operating table, but the hunchback grows a conscience and frees her. He gets stabbed as a reward. Clavelasso does a good job destroying the lab as he fights off the monsters. The Gilman gets devolved back into a fish. Frankenstein's monster is electrocuted. The mummy is tricked into the alligator pit. The werewolf is killed by the creature in the dungeon, who apparently Sputnik couldn't control. The vampire is first tricked by a gag worthy of Bugs Bunny before being exposed to the dawn's light and vanishing. Sputnik is going to crush our heroes in a trap before the hunchback gets up, shoots Sputnik, and dies just before disarming the trap. The lovers kiss and embrace right before Popsicle and the cavalry arrive to save the day. Hooray. There are no transformation scenes in this film. Like most of these Monster Mash movies, the Wolfman doesn't even get a name. The look is basic but serviceable. There is no lore. Dr. Sputnik gives Beatrice a new name, Galatea, a name giving away one of the major themes of the film. So let's discuss the myth of Galatea. This ancient Greek myth endured millennia as a compelling meditation on the nature of artifice versus authenticity and the existential boundaries between creator and creation. In the original myth, the sculptor Pygmalion grows enamored of his own ivory statue of the idealized woman Galatea. His affection for this inanimate object grows so profound that the goddess Aphrodite takes pity and transmutes the sculpture into a living, breathing woman. Pygmalion's artistic achievement thus attains humanity. The Castle of the Monsters presents a twisted funhouse mirror reflection of this concept. The film's antagonist, Dr. Sputnik, is a mad scientist obsessed with creating life. Like Pygmalion molding Galatea from ivory, Sputnik aims to construct his perfect woman, this time by erasing the mind and personality of a real woman so that he can mold her into his perfect ideal mate. Both Pygmalion and Sputnik focus on the outer physical shell of feminine beauty. The primary difference between the two is that Pygmalion is blessed by divine feminine intervention, while Sputnik seeks to impose his own twisted will. Pygmalion becomes infatuated with an object that transfigures into something more. Sputnik tries turning an actual human woman into an object. Let's take a brief detour into Clavelasso's relationship with Beatrice. He's immediately attracted to her, obviously. He should be. But his instinct is to learn about who she is, where she's from, and what she's good at. He gives her his last pesos, even though it's been established he needs the money. He even lets her stay in his small apartment and finds different sleeping arrangements. Clavelasso cares for her, and that's why she responds to him. He woos her, serenades her, and brings her flowers. He risks his own life to save her individuality. I was reminded of the relationship triangle between Sally, Jack Skellington, and Dr. Finkelstein from The Nightmare Before Christmas. The Castle of the Monsters shows how malleable and persistently relevant the Galatea fable remains as a metaphor for the interplay between nature and human tampering. So, if you like lycanthropes, like, share, and subscribe. Contribute your thoughts and additional observations in the comments below. Let me know what I missed or what you noticed. Next, I plan on discussing Curse of the Queer Wolf from 1988. This one, I have no idea what to expect. Keep your eye on the moon, a silver bullet in the chamber, and we'll see you back next episode.